Sometimes I can be having a perfectly good day, and then a photograph brings me right back into something I've lived through that's been really hard. Well, that happened to me today, very unexpectedly. Some of you may know that I'm an artist, right alongside of being a trauma grief loss specialist. I've painted off and on for most of my adult life, more seriously at some times than others. I was sending photographs of a few little studies that I'd done to a potential art mentor when I came across a photograph of some paintings I'd made after my house fire. The house fire that started next door took their place out and mine. It took me about a year after the fire to begin painting again. And those first paintings, well, they were studies of stones and rocks. And it was there that I noticed in the photograph that I'd taken, there were a couple of little cloud paintings, little 5x7 panels that I'd recovered from the fire. There are still flecks of char in them. Looking at them brought me right back into the heartbreak and the loss involved with that fire. The loss of my home and my artwork was the beginning of what was mostly 5 years of trauma, grief, loss, estrangement, betrayal, and health difficulties. Some was happening a little bit before. So much of what I held dear in my life was just falling apart. And there I was looking at these little paintings, feeling the weight of it again. You've probably had these types of things happen as well. The unexpected rise of thought and feeling. Something gets triggered unexpectedly. You might even be able to dismiss it at times. And then at other times you just can't. The wildfire season this year, for some reason, has been bringing some of that very close to the surface for me. With smoke coming in through the night, I can smell it, waking up, wondering for a moment whether there's another fire. So here I am in a perfectly good day with all of this going on inside of me. And I wanted to talk about that because I think there'll always be moments when something touches a tender place in us. Something that you or I may have encountered maybe on another day without a hitch or a glitch. And then all of a sudden, here it is. Suddenly, it's caught us. These moments may come less often. We may have more room around them, but a photograph or a smell or something we weren't expecting can bring these feelings, these thoughts, these memories up very close and very personal once again. For me, there can be a tendency to want to push that away or to feel as though I could get drawn so far into it that I'd have difficulty finding my way back into the hour or the day or even more. What I now know to be true is that I don't have to get rid of those feelings before I can participate in my own life. I didn't always have the capacity to do that. Certainly when I was right in the thick of those 5 years of very compressed trauma, grief, and loss, I felt adrift and lost. I was having trouble making any movement in my life. And I'm not talking about movement like feeling better necessarily. Interestingly, I didn't really care about feeling better, more happy, peaceful, or accepting. I just wanted to get on with my life, to do the things that mattered to me, the things that gave my life meaning, that gave it purpose, without my thoughts and feelings getting in the way of that. And it felt like a really tall order at times. Beyond doable, actually. So as we know, capacity waxes and wanes under the very best of circumstances. So if trauma, grief, or loss isn't what you're navigating, perhaps you recognize this somewhere else in your life. Think of that gym membership you no longer use, the food plan you're struggling with, the connection you're wanting to make but somehow can't bring yourself to reach for. Well, none of that in itself means you have failed as a person. I think there's a very pointed question here of capacity that deserves our attention. Most of us want to solve the issue of capacity from our thinking minds. And for me, I didn't find that capacity by thinking harder about what had happened or trying to think my way through or around everything that I was feeling. Programs and teachings had their place. There was room for that, of course, but not before I recognized something foundational, something I couldn't arrive at through thinking alone. I found it through an experiential opening called conscious awareness. I use that word experiential because I'm talking about something we can experience rather than another idea to understand or something to persuade ourselves to believe. I have these little guided practices that I call orientations. Some are, they're 5 or 10 minutes long. And today I listened to one, and I take my own medicine. These are practices I've created. And from that opening, I noticed there was more capacity to allow what I was feeling and still take action in my life. I didn't have to argue with the sadness or the sense of loss. I didn't have to convince myself that I shouldn't be affected anymore, or to make being affected mean that there might be something wrong with me. Those feelings could be here, and I could still have a life to participate in today. Now, if you're really in the soup of things, please don't hear take action as another demand. I know there's times when even the smallest thing feels enormous and maybe not doable. You don't have to turn what I'm saying into a big undertaking. You could just listen and let it all just settle in your being. There's nothing wrong with you because you're feeling that whatever's going on in your life is difficult, and you don't have to force an opening. Conscious awareness is something that's right here. It's steadfast. It's always here. And perhaps when the time's right for you, you'll have an opportunity to experience a couple of minutes of a guided orientation, a little room to recognize something beyond the thinking that's been working so hard to manage everything. And that can be more meaningful than we sometimes give credit to. And it can be very slow going in the beginning stages of this type of awareness. Nevertheless, I find my capacity in conscious awareness, and from there, action does become possible. I can make choices again, and again. For me, art is one of those places. There's something in front of me that I can actually do. And if I'm struggling to take action, I return to conscious awareness. I step back or into and open to the place where my capacity becomes available. And it isn't always easy. Conscious awareness can actually hold back too. I may need to return again and again. Over time, I'm getting better and better at recognizing where to return. I think of conscious awareness as a fountain the thinking mind can drink from. It doesn't have to work everything out on its own. It can come back to that fountain again and again and again. And the thoughts and the feelings can still be there, playing on the stage of life. The grief can be there, the tenderness can be there, my love for what I lost can be there. And there can also be a brush in my hand. That's the guiding principle I keep coming back to allow what I'm thinking and feeling to return to conscious awareness and to take the action, make the choice that becomes possible from that capacity. Today, these little paintings brought the heartbreak close again, and today is still a day of my life. A day I can live with meaning and purpose, even with these feelings here, even with whatever thoughts and feelings may be straggling about. Thanks for being here with me today. I'll see you soon.